Have we all gotten the stock market wrong? At the time that I'm doing this video, we are just 2% away. 2% away from an all-time high. This means that the tariffs worked and all the experts were wrong, but is it actually what happened, or is there some smokescreen that we're not paying attention to? Let's go ahead and break it down. So let's start off with the top, okay? We are near an all-time high, but there is no guarantee that the stock market is going to reach that all-time high. I'm gonna tell you this though, I am rooting for it. I will always root for a new all-time high in the stock market. Why? I would like to make more money, and I think you would too, okay? I have also said that it did make sense to sell. I've been giving out lists here on the channel of stocks you might want to invest in and been giving people ways to navigate the stock market in a time like this. All right, I've been very, very consistent in that. But again, there is no guarantee. If I've learned nothing else about 2025 is that anything can happen. So there very well could be an update or something between the time this video is recorded and edited and posted that could absolutely sink the stock market for all I know. But I'm recording this on Monday, and hopefully things do hold, and hopefully either some point between the time that this gets posted or by the end of the week that we do hit an all-time high. However, between all the tariff announcements and all the expectations, I mean, think of all the things people, including myself, have said. If you raise tariffs, you're not going to bring back manufacturing jobs. And if you raise tariffs to 145%, 135% on China, and doing things to Canada and Mexico, and 30% tariffs or 50% tariffs on Europe or whatever it's going to be, that is not going to help people. What happened to stagflation being a bigger threat than a recession? All of that stuff. Well, if that were the case, how in the world can the stock market be this close to an all-time high? We're not even in correction territory anymore, let alone the Great Depression or a recession or anything like that. Those two things do not mix. So how in the world can that be possible? Well, here's where the smokescreen comes into play. It's psychology, it's media, and it's the administration really kind of mixing together, and here's how. We remember negative experiences more than positive experiences. For example, you can't tell me every positive year in the stock market. Mostly because there are many, right? But you can't say exactly how much the stock market was up in 2024 or 2023. Do you even know when was the last year the stock market was down? Just off the top. Now you might have thought, well, 2020 was pretty rough. Actually, the stock market was up double digits in 2020. It was. Now, it fell in March, right? It fell sharply in March because of COVID, but the end of that year, it was up. Quick time out. I know we've been talking a lot about investing today. However, if you don't know where to start or you haven't started yet, I have a free guide on how you can buy your first stock in just 20 minutes. To get that free guide, check out the link right here. All right, back to the video. Now, if you guessed 2022, you were correct. The stock market was down double digits. But if you remember 2022, then you probably remember 2008 and then the dot-com bust if you're old enough to invest back then. But you remember those were rough times. You don't remember, I don't know, pick a year, right? Good times you get, right? If you lost $200 at value out, it was probably a really bad day. Somebody just gave you $200 randomly, it's like, oh, cool. And you just go about it and not really think too much of it. Those are the differences, and this is a psychological concept that does stick with us. So when Liberation Day happens and all of the chaos and media that comes from it, we remember how the stock market fell and how crazy a 100% plus tariff hits on China, a 30% plus tariff hits on this country and that country and all that type of stuff, and all the chaos. But what happened? Do we actually pay those tariffs? The answer was no. They were actually never implemented at those levels for two reasons. Number one, I think it was like a 60 or 90 day pause in negotiations. The US and China are negotiating right now. But also, there was a court order that blocked the tariff on China and several other tariffs as well. And that is the issue. We talk way more about the problem and the negative side of things, but when the positive thing is blocked, right, and that saves us all a bit of money, actually helps the stock market, it didn't get that many views. We don't actually talk about it. In fact, you can go back and look at my view count. I think when we talk about tariffs and the potential recession, right, the view count is 400 or 500 views, which for me is a lot. But when we talk about the court case and it blocking the tariffs, which is also very good for us, it didn't even crack 100 views when I checked before doing this recording. That there is a psychological concept. It's why on the local news, you'll always get such and such was shot today, right? You get the negative news first because that captures people's attention more than good things. But the stock market does recognize this, and at the end of the day, math recognizes this, which is why I enjoy being a math teacher. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, but costs haven't increased by 100x% because of tariffs, because they were never implemented as such. Right now, I think the 10% tariff, that blanket percent is still in. 10% is not good, but it ain't 145. That framing is different, and that is the case here. Walmart came out and said that the original tariff wasn't going to work. It either needed to be lowered or abolished or what have you. Did a video, a short on that here on YouTube. That is the thing, right? We focus on the negative, and then if there's a positive resolution or something, it's like, oh, whatever. I remember what happened on that day. I don't necessarily get the same attention when the amazing things happen or the good things happen underneath them. So no, the tariffs didn't work, and the experts weren't necessarily wrong because they weren't really implemented as announced in the first place. Now, if you said, hey, everybody's going to get a low 10% tariff, yeah, it might have been like, I don't know if it's going to work, but it's not terrible, right? I don't think that is a recession-ending thing, but I also don't think it's going to bring back manufacturing jobs either. But in either case, I don't think that's necessarily a trigger for a recession or anything like that. 145, right? 130, 50%, 30%, that's a different story, right? So there is the sales point and the negative headline and then the actual resolution. So that is the smokescreen part of it. But from an investor portion, how should you manage a situation like this? You, the investor, have to keep the same even profile, right? As I've said at the very beginning, yes, I want an all-time high. However, whether it is or isn't, I'm still going to remain calm, which I said way back in February when we did hit the all-time high. I think it was February 19th when we saw that all-time high. But here's the thing. I'm going to stay like this. Okay, I'm gonna mind my business. I'm gonna stay with my process, which is something you should have. Now, my process is mine. You have yours. Okay, now I reevaluate and make small tweaks to my portfolio every 6 months. That's June and December, the end of June, end of December for me. But some people do it quarterly. I don't recommend doing more often than that, but that's just me. Okay, but you make those adjustments. Choose your stocks and your research process, however it is that you want to do that. I try to have an emotional attachment to my stocks and say, I bought this when such and such happened, but no, you either pass the test or you don't, and you gotta go. For example, I've had Apple for a really long time. We all know what Apple used to mean. Warren Buffett had been selling shares of Apple. I might too, right? I might take my profits and run because Apple don't Apple like it used to Apple. Right, but that is a part of my process. We'll talk about more of what I'm going to do with Apple once I make a decision, right? I haven't made a decision at this point in time, but that is what you're going to need to do. You have to have an even keel, whether or not we hit an all-time high or if the market crashes. I don't know in which direction it's going to go from this point forward, but I do hope it is in a positive direction. I will also say this. You want to also add an element of inversion. This is something I've been talking about this year, and it's also come quite in handy as well. And this was a concept from Charlie Munger that is considering what could be the worst case scenario and having an answer to that, particularly in your portfolio. So I've mentioned what are the biggest threats right now. For most of us, that has been tariffs, right? So if there's a major tariff, it's going to hurt blah, blah, and blah, right? How can I flip that? How can I fix that in my portfolio? So I'm going to choose companies that are inflation resistant. I want to make sure I have more cash just in my bank account in general. So now for me, as I get closer to June, or we're in June, so I guess the end of June at this point, I'm gonna see what is my biggest threat now. Maybe it's still tariffs if we don't have a deal. Maybe it's going to be what is in the big beautiful bill. See what's in that, see if there's going to be a threat there, and just survey the land and say, this is a risk, how do I flip it? This is a risk, how do I flip it? And just be ready there. And I would say that is the best way to invest in general, but also just to cover all your potential bases as well. If you want a head start on what you may want to consider investing in and researching, check out this video right here.